Let's brush up on these calculator skills, and if you don't have time to read the book, I'm going to walk you through some of the most important functions that you'll need. First of all, you need to know how to turn it on. This button right down here says on. We'll turn it on. Now the first thing I always do, because I don't know who's used the calculator or I don't remember what I've done last, is clear out all the data. If you hold down the clear button and the on button for just a second, it'll come up and say memory cleared. That lets you start fresh. So let's just look at some of these keys that are on here. This one up here that says delete, and then the blue word up here. Now you understand all of these blue words are second functions. That means you have twice as much keyboard as what actually shows. If you want one of the blue things, then you use the second button before you hit this button. So for example, if I type in 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I want to insert a 2, let's say I left it out. You can scroll, this is your scroll button, scroll back over, and it's going to put it before whatever letter is blinking. So if I go over here, scroll over here, and then I hit second insert, then I can hit a 2, go back to the end, and now I have a 2. Alright, now let's say I put in 6, 2, 2, 3, 4, and I want to delete one of the 2's. Scroll over to which one you want to delete and just hit the delete button. Since this is on the top of the key, there is no need to hit the second button. So that's a quick way to insert and delete a number if you accidentally type in the wrong thing. Okay, this one's very important. A lot of people get confused between the negative sign and the minus sign. Some calculators, they use them interchangeably. This calculator does not. So if I put in 3 minus 5, thinking that's 3 minus negative 5, it's going to tell me syntax error. So if you see that, go back and make sure this button down here with the negative in the parentheses, this is your negative button. So you would want to hit 3 minus negative 5, enter, and it gives you the 8. All right, now let's look at exponents. If you just have something to the second power, you can use the x to the second button. And it doesn't have to be x to the second, it can be anything. For example, if I want to enter 3 to the second power, I can do 3, hit the x to the second, enter, and it gives me 9. Now, if you have an exponent that is greater than 2, you're going to want this button up here, the x with the little block on it. So I would hit 3, the x with the square, you see it's giving me a little cursor that's blinking, whatever exponent I have, and enter. Now let's look at the difference between square root and nth root. Square root actually means a 2. We just don't have to put it there. If it's anything else, you will have a number in your square root sign right there. That's called the index. So first, if I just want to find the square root of 49, let's enter the symbol first. Now, if you have a number multiplied out here, like 2 times that, you'd hit that number first. But just to find square root of 49, this is a blue key, so I'm going to need to hit my second button, then this button. Now you see it's blinking where I need to enter 49. Okay. Now, this calculator is great because it has something called math print. So let's just say I want to find the square root of 12. I can hit second, my square root button, enter 12, and it gives me 2 square root of 3. That's the exact answer, and a lot of calculators won't give you that. They'll give you the decimal. But what if you want the decimal? Well, if you want this changed to a decimal, all you have to do is hit your toggle button. This right here is your toggle button. It goes from square root to decimal. It also goes back again. Now I have the math print, and I can just keep going back and forth, okay? Up above here, the second function, that toggles you between fraction and decimal. Like if I want to enter the fraction 2/5, See, it's going to leave it 2/5, but if I hit this button, it changes it to a decimal. All right, now let's look at an nth root. What if I have an index that is larger than 2? Say I want to find the cube root of 64. Well, I'm going to use this function right up here. Now you need to hit your index first. So I'm going to hit the 3, then second, this button, then I'll enter my radicand, 64, and hit enter. Now let's find the 5th root of 125. I'm going to hit my index first, second, my nth root button, and 125. Now, it did give my answer in a decimal. This calculator, for anything more than a square root or a 2 index, it's going to give you a decimal. And we actually just talked about the toggle button right here that has the 2 little arrows, and then the squiggly lines, that means approximately. So let's look at what would happen. Here's your fraction button. So if I entered 5/3 as a fraction, and then I hit the enter button, it leaves it 5/3 because that is simplest form, which is an excellent way to check your fraction. If you're not sure that it's in lowest terms, put it in here, enter it, and if it stays the same, it's lowest terms. But if I hit this button, it changes it to a decimal. I can also go back and forth, depending on what I need. All right, now if I'm in improper fraction form and I want to change it to a mixed number, there is a key here to do that. I can hit the math button and then choose the first option and then hit enter again. And now you can see it changed it to 1 2/3. And we'll talk about this button a little bit more in just a second. Next, let's look at your fraction and mixed number button. All right, this one on top here is your fraction button. Now the little symbol on top of the 7, that's for your mixed numbers. So if you want to enter a fraction, there's actually 2 ways to do that. You can hit the fraction key first and then put in whatever fraction you want, hit enter. If your fraction's in lowest terms, it's going to give you the same fraction back. Let's say I enter 6/10 and hit enter. You see there, it reduces your fraction down to lowest terms. So that is very handy. If you're unsure, enter the fraction. If it stays the same, then you have lowest terms already. Okay, how to use the mixed number button. Here it is right here. So we're going to need the second key and this. And then you just hit 3, scroll over, 5, scroll down, 7. Now you can combine your keys. Let's say I have a problem with a fraction over a fraction. What I'd want to do there is hit my fraction key first. Then you're going to hit the fraction key again. Now you see I have a fraction on top, so let's put 7, scroll down to 2. Now when I scroll down to this denominator, if I hit the fraction button again, you see I get another fraction. So I can put 3/5. Now you're going to have to hit the scroll button twice to get out to the whole side, then hit enter, and it tells me that that was 35/6. So let's look at how to do 3 to the 2/3 power. I'm going to use 3 and then hit the X with the little square. Now I have a place to put an exponent, but I want my exponent to be a fraction, so hit the fraction key. Then you can scroll around and enter the numbers you have. Use your scroll button to get to the side and then hit enter, and it tells me it's 2.8008. Now let's talk about scientific notation. The calculator will tell you really large numbers in scientific notation, but you have to know how to interpret what it's telling you. Let's say I want to find 15 to the 12th power. So I'm going to hit 15, my X with a box, and I'm going to put 12, enter. Now I get this really long decimal, and right here at the end it says e to the 14th. E stands for 10 to that power. This is scientific notation. So this would actually be 10 to the 14th power. You can also enter scientific notation by using the EE button right here. If I wanted to enter 1, 2, 3, 4 times 10 to the 5th power, I could do 1, 2, 3, 4 times 10. Now hit the EE button, 5th power, and it gives me the expanded notation of my scientific notation. So it will change from scientific to expanded. Now let's look at some of these interesting buttons. First, let's look at the one right here that says expression evaluation. Now remember, the difference between an expression and an equation is that an expression does not have an equal sign. You're just trying to evaluate it. And these problems can look two different ways. It could tell you to evaluate 2x plus 3 for x equals 3, or it could say if f of x equals 2x plus 3, find f of 3. Both of these problems mean the same thing. So let's use the express eval button, and I'm going to use my second function. Hit this. Now you're just going to type in this expression, the 2x. All right, here's your variable button. It's got X, Y, Z, T, A, B, C, D. And the more you hit it, it just scrolls through all the letters. But remember, if you've just got one variable, it doesn't matter which one you use. And you can save some keystrokes by just using X. So we're going to put 2x plus 3. All right, hit enter. Now it says, well, what is X? That's where you're going to put the number here or the number in your parentheses after F. So I'm going to enter 3. And hit enter, and it tells me that's 9. So it plugged in that value for x, and it evaluated that expression. Now let's look at the numSolve function. That's this function right here above the sign button, and it is in blue, so you're going to have to hit second numSolve to access it. Now before I ever use numSolve or really any of these functions, real quick, I hit the on and the clear to make sure that everything's cleared, because this calculator will store values for your variables and I don't want to have to clear that out. So we got all clear. Now we're going to hit second numSolve. Now you see it gave me a block with an equal sign and a block. So I'm going to enter 2x plus 3. There's 2. Now this button right here gives you your variables, and it has X, Y, Z, T, A, B, C, D. It doesn't matter which letter you use. So if you only have one letter, just use the X. It'll save you a keystroke. All right, plus 3. Now I'm going to use my scroll button to get over to the other side, and I'm going to hit 25. Okay. Now you want to enter, and it's asking you, do you want to solve for X? Yes, I do. Solve. Hit enter again. And right there is my answer. It says x equals 11. Okay. If you want to solve again, you can use this, or I just usually go over and hit quit. Now let's talk about polysolve. This is for equations that are quadratic or cubics. So they're going to have your x squared or even an x cubed. Once again, I'm going to all clear real quick. So I'm good to go. Now I'm going to hit second polysolve. Now you have two choices here. Do you have a standard quadratic equation where your highest exponent is 2, or do you have a 4-term polynomial where your highest exponent is 3? All right, if it's a 1, and that's the one we're going to look at, we have a quadratic equation here. Now before you can use this function, your quadratic equation does have to be in standard form, and it does have to have a 0 here. So if you don't start off with that, you're going to have to manipulate it. Then you're just going to plug in your coefficients. This is actually the stored quadratic formula, and that's how you do the quadratic formula. You get it in standard form, and then you pull out your A, B, and C. So here is A, here is B, and here is C, and you do have to pay attention to your signs in front of it. So I'm going to hit enter, or you can hit the 1. Now it wants to know what's the coefficient of your A, or what is A? Well, that's the 2, and then hit enter. Now it says what's B? Well, my B is negative, be sure to use the negative button, 7, hit enter, and now it says what is C? That's negative 15, hit enter, and enter again. Now it tells me your X, your first X, is negative 3/2. If I hit enter again, It says my second x is 5. So this solution to this would be -3/2 and 5. Now let's look at the Sys Solve button. That's right here above tangent. And this will solve a system of equations for you. Your problems would look like this. Now before you can use this function, you do need to have your system in standard form like this, with your letters lined up and your equal signs lined up primarily. So let's look at how to enter it. We're going to hit second Sys Solve. Now this gives you the choice to solve a 2 by 2, which is what I have here. 2 variables and 2 equations. It also will solve a 3 by 3 for you, so that's incredibly handy. Let's just look, they work the same way, so let's just look, press enter, and it gives you this little diagram. Now we're going to enter the coefficients for x and y, and if you have different letters, it won't matter, just put them in order. You also have to watch this sign right here. Now my first equation is plus, so all I have to do to enter this first equation is 2, enter. Now it takes me to the sign. I want to leave it plus, so just press enter. Now it goes over to y. My coefficient there is 3, enter, and my constant term is 10, enter. All right, for my second one, if you don't have a coefficient, you enter 1, hit enter. Now I'm going to change this to minus because my problem has minus, and it automatically goes over. Now the coefficient of y is 2, enter. My constant is 5, enter. Now it's highlighted the solve button, so I'm going to press enter. And it tells me that x is equal to 5 and y is equal to 0. And that's all there is to the Systems of Equations button. Now let's explore some of the other little hidden menus. Under this Math button right here is a whole lot of different things. There are 6 different options that we're going to look at. The first button, which it's kind of hard to tell on your screen because it's like pixelated, but this changes from an improper fraction to a mixed number, or from a mixed number to an improper fraction. So how to use this? You would enter your improper fraction, say 7 fraction button 3, and go over. Now if I just hit the enter button, it just leaves it at 7/3. So let's see what happens if I had 7/3 and I hit math. I want selection 1, so I'm just going to hit enter. And now you see that strange looking thing is here. Hit enter again, and it changed it to 2 1/3. It does the same thing if you enter a mixed number and then do math, enter, enter. It'll change it to an improper fraction. In fact, let's just try one. Here's a mixed number, so I'm going to engage my mixed number function. 5, scroll over and up, 2, down, 3. Now let me get out of my fraction, and I want to change this to an improper fraction. So hit the math button, just enter it, and enter again. And now you have an improper fraction. The next function in math, number 2, is your least common multiple. So if you choose it and hit enter, you can enter 2 numbers and find the lowest multiple that's common to both of them. Now the thing is, it only does 2 numbers, and you would use this when if you were trying to find a lowest common denominator. So let's say I want to find the common denominator between 12 and 20. So you're going to hit 12. Now you do need a comma in between them. Here's your comma right above your decimal. So hit second, comma, 20. And you don't have to close the parentheses. It'll be fine. And it shows you 60. So 60 is the smallest number that 12 and 20 would go into. So if you were trying to add fractions that had these as denominators, 60 would be the number that you're looking for. And let's hit math again. Let's look at number 3. Number 3 says GCD. This is your greatest common divisor. The divisor is what most of us call a factor. So if you're trying to find the greatest common factor, like when you're trying to factor a quadratic, this will also only work for 2 numbers. But let's enter it, and then let's put in 216. I'm going to need the comma. and 312, then hit enter. 24 is the largest number that will go into both of these evenly. So that's a good way to find your greatest common factor if you're only looking for two numbers. So let's do math again. This time let's scroll down to number 4. You see where it says P factor? This stands for prime factor. If you need to find the prime factors of a number. Now with this one, you do have to put your number in first. So let's say I want to prime factor the number 24. I'm going to input 24, then I'm going to hit math. And if you're familiar enough with your calculator, you could just hit the number 4, enter, and it would give it to you. Or you can scroll down, hit enter again, and it tells me the prime factors of 24 is 2 to the 3rd power times 3. So this calculator will prime factor a number for you. And the math menu again, we're going to scroll down to number 5 where it says sum. These problems look like this, and they're not really hard. What this problem actually says is take this expression and start with 1 and plug it in and go all the way up to whatever this number is. Plug all those numbers in one at a time, and whatever you get, add them all together. So I want to find 3 times 1 plus 7, 3 times 2 plus 7, 3 times 3 plus 7, 3 times 4 plus 7, and 3 times 5 plus 7. Then I want to add those results all together. This will do it for you in just a few keystrokes. So go down to number 5 and hit enter. Now you see up here you have an entry space similar to what I have in my problem. So you just put the numbers in here just like they are here. You're going to put the 1 down there at the bottom. Use your scroll button. Now I'm on top of the summation symbol, so I'm going to put a 5. Scroll over here is where your expression goes. 3x plus 7, okay? And then get out of your expression. Now hit enter, and it just told me 80. I didn't have to figure up 6 different expressions and then add them together. A lot of people are asking about the absolute value. Can you put an absolute value in here? Yes, you can, but it's a kind of hidden. Once again, go to math. Only this time, instead of scrolling down, we're going to go over to NUM, number. You see number 1 says ABS. When you punch that, it will give you an absolute value sign, and you can access this at any time in your equation. So let's just look at this expression, 3 plus the square plus the absolute value of -5. I would hit 3 plus. Then I'm going to go to math, move over to number. The 1 is already highlighted, so I'm going to press enter. Now you see it gave me my absolute value sign. So hit the negative button and the 5, scroll over, and hit enter. Now another thing that's kind of hidden in here, this button right here where it says LN and LOG. Alright, LN simply refers to a log of base E. E is a number that occurs in nature and science, and it's kind of like pi. But instead of saying log base E, we use the LN. So for example, if I want to find the log base E of 6, I could enter LN 6 and hit that, and I get 1.79. E is just a constant decimal number. Alright. If you hit the button twice, you see log. This refers to your common log or a log base 10. So if you don't see anything down here, it means log base 10, or you can just use the log button and do log of 5 and get a decimal. Now where it gets interesting is if you hit this button 3 times, now you have access to this function where you can enter a log with base n or any base. So for example, if I wanted to find the log base 3 of 7, I would put a 3 here, scroll up to 7, and hit enter. And it gives me the decimal format. This is just recalling data. It's not actually working a problem for you. A lot of calculators do not have the capability to let you enter a log with an nth base. So you have to do the change of base formula. So this is very handy. And all you have to do to access it is hit this button 3 times. And that's when you get that. And last but not least for this video, an interesting button here, a very handy button, is this one. It includes your factorial and the formulas for combinations and permutations. Now, if I have a factorial problem, like 5 factorial, all you're going to do is hit 5, hit the button once, and hit enter. And that just multiplied 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 to get 120. Now for your NPR button and your NCR, this is a permutation, this is a combination, different formulas, but you use them the same way. So let's say I have 7 items, taken 3 at the time. This is what it would look like written in expression form. You do have to hit this number first. So you're going to hit 7. Now we're going to hit this button 3 times because first is factorial, second is combinations, third is permutations. By 3, and then hit enter, and it figures out the equation for you. Okay? Let me know in the comments if this was helpful to you and if you'd like to see some more hidden features in the TI-36X Pro. See you next time. Bye.